Welcome to the Spa Girls podcast, the self-publishing podcast for authors. You're in the right place for the best writing, marketing, and publishing advice, plus interviews with industry experts and best-selling authors. I'm Cheryl Phipps.
I'm Wendy Vella.
And I'm Trudy J. And this week we are here with Leanna Morgan. Hello.
Yeah, welcome back, actually.
Yeah. So this is the second time. Leanna was one of our very first guests, I think, or very early on in the podcast. So
I reckon 6 years ago, probably.
Yeah. We should have gone back and checked before we, got live on the show. But
Yeah.
normally we would have. So it's really exciting to have you back here, Leanna. It's awesome. So I'm excited to chat to you. And we've got the topic today is 6 things to tweak to impact sales. So that's awesome. That's what we all want, right? Like some things to get more sales. So first of all, Cher is going to do your bio, and then we're going to get into the topic. So
All right. Leanna Morgan is a USA Today best-selling author of more than 35 books. Did I get that right, Leanna?
Yes, that sounds good.
Cool. She lives in New Zealand and is surrounded by green hills on one side and the ocean on the other. She enjoys going for long walks, especially if she can convince her husband and 2 children to go with her. Leanna writes contemporary romances and women's fiction set in Montana. Her stories contain all of the things that are important to her: good friends, family, a strong sense of community, and a happy evening.
yay.
Welcome. Thank you.
So let's get right in. So we've got 6 things. Let's start with the number one thing to tweak to impact your sales.
Well, I chose 6 things, but I don't think there's really a number one because they're all interlinked and all important. So the first one I think I'll talk about is covers, because when your readers are looking through their retailer to find out what books they want to borrow or see a Facebook ad or something, it's the cover that will, or an image that will draw them to that book to start off with. So I think everything we talk about this morning has to be consistent with the branding that you as an author want to actually portray. So with your cover, it's a really good visual link to what's inside your book and to the type of story you're writing. So you wouldn't put a picture of a zombie on a contemporary romance book, because that would give a really bad impression, or would give a different impression of what's in that book to what you want your reader, your potential reader, to see. So it's kind of like, almost like the first few words of a book is seen on your image, and that's really important. And you guys all have beautiful covers, and they all really sing to the genre that you're writing for and the audience that you want to attract. So I thought I'd give you a few tips of how I find covers and how I look at what might work if I'm looking at a slightly different type of book that I'm writing. So I go on to the big Amazon and do a search. On the left-hand side, they've got like a little toolbar, and you can narrow down into different genres and different subgenres within those genres. So go there, look up, say, the top 100 in the paid books, and have a look at the images, the color palette that the authors are using for their books, the type font, all that type of thing. And then if you've got a mock-up of your cover, pop it in a thumbnail size on top of, say, a few of the top 100 covers on your page you're looking at on the internet, and just see if it kind of fits in. Because if it's glaringly different, the people that read that genre may not be initially attracted to even going past the cover image of your book. So make that on point. And the other thing I'd say is that if you're a really good graphic artist, go for it, do your own cover. But if you're not, then you might want to pay a professional to do it.
Yeah, good advice.
Yeah.
That's good. And I want to say, anyone listening, you need to go to Leanna's website and look at all of her books, because the covers are so beautifully branded, not only individually but together as series. Like you look at them and you know exactly what you're getting. And I think that's exactly what you're saying to us here. But your books are a good example of that, of how to kind of achieve that. And what I really love is, because idea that you when you said make sure that your book doesn't stand out, and I can imagine there's some people out there going, oh no, I want my book to stand out. I want people to kind of go, that's the brightest, biggest surprise there. But the readers, they see something like that and they go, oh, that doesn't look like the books that I normally like to read. And that's what you're aiming for, isn't it, with
that's right,
covers?
it's that consistency and reader expectation, and they want to know that when they pay a few dollars for your book, or if they read your first book in a series, it might be free, that it's going to be a good use of their time. So and you want it to touch on your cover image, to touch on key points of sort of what your book's about. And so that just attracts the readers to actually, or potential readers, to click on that link and then read your blurb, which is probably the next thing that's really important.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so keywords are really important in your blurb. And one thing I do when I've helped other authors with blurbs is I've gone on to an author's book that's in the same genre that they write, that's a very good, prolific writer and sells lots of books. And I print off a copy of the blurb of their book, and then I get a highlighter and I highlight all the words that are, I think, are keywords to that genre. So if you've got a book that's an FBI murder mystery type story, I go through, and you'll be surprised at how many books have that type of book. Will have the word murder, espionage, FBI, all the keywords that are linked to that sort of story. And what that enables in your blurb is that once it's loaded onto the retailers' websites, their little bots can go through and they pick up those keywords, and then they can hopefully encourage potential readers to read that book by showing that book in their suggested readings or recommended readings. So that's a really easy way. So when then you go to write your blurb, keep that list of keywords and incorporate those words, as many of them as you can, or that makes sense. I mean, don't load your blurb with keywords
Just
and then
keywords,
like, oh my God, I'm reading the dictionary of love. But just make it really really hum along, incorporate those keywords, and that will give you a really good chance of getting that book discovered on the retail sites.
Yeah, awesome. So what other advice do you have for blurbs? Like, is there any other things that you always incorporate, or a style that you use?
For my books, a lot of readers say that my books are like another author's, like Robin Carr's. So I have a little catch line across the top of my blurb that I put on all my books. You might have a catchphrase of your own, or you might have a really succinct line that kind of draws a reader in straight away, so they know what they're looking at. And I always bold that, so that's the first thing that the readers actually look at if they're on their cell phone or their computer or whatever. And then I usually start for romance with the female's point of view, what the female main character is, who she is, what she wants, what's standing in her way, and then I have a little bit about the male character, and then a little sentence at the end that ties them both together. So that kind of works for my blurbs. But also have a look at different authors in your genre, how they're writing their blurbs. I mean, I write romance. So if you're writing thriller or science fiction, have a look at some really good authors and see what format they use for their blurbs. It all helps. And you can vary it, you can change it. You don't need to stick with one blurb. You can change it if you want to.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Good. And do you add anything else onto your blurbs, because you can put this up on all the platforms, you can have it all the same, but do you add anything else to it, like other books in the series, or a bio or anything?
I put as much information as I can, because it all is discoverable, when the little botties are doing their thing and picking up keywords. So I have my blurb for my book. Then I have some nice quotes from people who have read my stories. And then I have a list of all the books I've written. So it's getting a bit long and I can't fit it all in. So what I do is I start with the series. I've got about 7 or 8 series. So I start with the series sometimes before the one that they're reading, because all my books are linked. And and then I just have everything else under that, so that people can find those.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you do A+ content on there as well?
No, and I want to, because I've seen what you guys are doing. Like, oh, yes, but I just don't have the time. I've been distracted a bit. So so I would love to do that, because I really think the pictures are pretty. They actually give the reader a really great sense of a little bit more about what your book's about. A lot of A+ content has some really catchy, snazzy little sentences that that I really enjoy looking at. I've got probably about 6 or 7 examples of ones I really, really like, but I haven't done anything with it.
Yeah.
You'll get there.
Yeah. You can't do it all, as we've said before. You just
No. And I think it's really important now more than ever, probably, with everything that's happening in the world, that you just focus on what you can do.
Absolutely.
And write the next book.
It is. You do feel like sometimes you're chasing your tail and you've got so many things to do. So something has to give occasionally.
Yes,
you know,
right.
and I think that sometimes I quite often do that. I go, oh no, that can go.
No, be honest, Wendy, you don't do that. Your daughter tells you, no, Mum, you're not allowed.
No,
and
Mum.
then you don't do it.
That's exactly right. Yeah. My boss tells me.
Good boss.
We all need those.
Yeah.
Wendy needs to be corralled,
Nice.
otherwise she'll be like.
I do need to be corralled, so that's probably a good thing.
Okay. Is there anything else about blurbs that you can think of that you think are important for people to any more tweaks that they could make to their current blurb?
No, I just think, really just be critical when you're looking at your blurb, and make sure that it portrays the book, it portrays the tone of their writing, and just make it authentic. I think that's the best thing you can do for your blurbs.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, though, for those of you watching this, that dog is so cute behind you.
It's adorable.
He wants to go out.
It's just so funny.
Now I've got my grotty old tracksuit pants on.
Oh,
so
don't worry, it's all good. The thing about blurbs, I think that we tend to overwrite them.
I've been trying.
Sorry, I was just saying about blurbs, about how we overwrite blurbs. We try to get too much into them.
Yes.
And this is one of my biggest faults, is I want to put everything in there.
Yes.
It's really hard to turn around and write small.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to try what I do? I usually write my blurbs about a year before I actually
I was going to
publish the
ask
book.
you that. Yeah.
So that makes you really good, and not going into detail about your book because you haven't written it yet.
Great idea.
I did that for the first time with the current book that I'm writing, because I just someone else said that it helps you keep on track. So you go, oh no, I can't write that because it's not on the blurb that I wrote.
No, you just tweak the blurb a little bit.
Exactly.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, because you can't see the forest for the trees, right?
No.
Or is it the other way? You see too much of the forest and you can't. Yeah. So
well, if you haven't written your forest yet, you're fine, because you just stick to the pertinent points of. I'm in my mind, because I've already introduced these characters in other books, so I know who they are, and I have a profession, and I know how they've come to this particular town and why. So I kind of just pull different, and it's the same for both characters usually. Sometimes one of them's new, but most of the time they're all known to the readers, especially if it's a book in the middle of a series. So I just create a blurb around who they are and what they want.
That's awesome.
That's a really good tip.
Really good.
Okay, so that's number 2. So now it's number 3. What's
editing.
Oh, here we go.
Horrible editing. Oh my God, by the time I've read a book about 4 times, I'm fed up with it. But so do it. You want to produce a professional book. And spending a little bit of money and time on editing is really important. So for the reader. You know, they'll come back and read more books if your books are beautifully edited. You'll become a better writer because you're catching things that are possibly an automatic response when you're writing something, but you realize that it's not an easy thing to read as a reader. So that's a good way of increasing your skills as a writer, is to get your books edited professionally. And you can use things like Grammarly. What else do I use?
Writing aid.
Yeah, it's it. I've got the icons down the bottom of my computer. And then you've got people like me who have their mum reads my books straight off, so that she picks up some great things that I've missed. And then I have another friend, Ellie, who edits my book. She's a professional editor, so she does a wonderful job of that. And then another clean copy goes to a lady in Canada who looks for Americanisms or words that aren't quite, Kiwiisms that aren't quite right. And then it goes to another lady in Texas who reads it, and then it's published. So, it's a chain of people in my
and different eyes. Different eyes looking at it, not just yours.
No. That's the important thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially for New Zealanders, getting that American eyes on it, to say, because there's a lot of things that we think like that's just what it's called, and it's 100% not called that in the States,
No.
Yeah.
And just I think the big thing with editing is it just provides a really professional, clean copy, and there's nothing jarring in it that will pull people out of your story, because that's the main thing. You want people to immerse themselves in your story and not realize that they've used the word really about 3,000 times in your book, because that's the one I used in my last book a lot.
There's always a few words, isn't there, that catch us out.
Yes. And sometimes you just can't see them. No. And it actually can leap from book to book, like a different word that you think, I've got that one sorted. But you come up with something else that you really want to use a lot.
That's right. It's a brain. And probably the editing goes hand in hand with the formatting, because they're all processes that sort of create a really nice book. So with formatting, you can do it yourself using Vellum, or the Draft to Digital have got a really good formatting software, or there's probably lots of other things you can do for formatting, but just make sure your book looks really great, that you are proud of what the readers will see.
And do you compare your formatting to other books in your genre, or is it just something that you like the look of?
No, I do, because it's quite nice. You only know what you know, especially if you're doing the formatting yourself. And so when you see some authors who might do beautiful little, were they glyphs, the little pictures under chapter 1, chapter 2, or they might have really nice scene breaks, or they might have almost like hand created or branded imagery in the books. I really like seeing that and trying to work out how they did that. So that's I have a little sneaky peek at different authors' books just for that sometimes, and to see how they've set out their front and back matter. What they include, what they don't, whether they have newsletter links and website links and all that type of stuff. I really like having a little sneaky peek at other authors and what they're doing.
So you will change yours up, you will tweak yours. And
of course, when I am putting another series up for pre-order, I update all my front and back matter of all of my books. So that's the time when I'll do a little playing around of content and what's in there, because there's so many books that I really have to sit down and do it all at the same time, because I don't use Draft to Digital as a supplier, so I have to update my front and back matter myself. So it all takes time.
It takes a lot of time.
That's a lot of time. So that's formatting. Have you got any tips for formatting other than, just taking a sneaky peek at other authors? Are we?
just take your time, and before you publish it, make sure you have a really good look at your manuscript.
Yeah.
As a you know, as a PDF or whatever whatever format that you've got there, just to make sure that it looks how you think it's going to look. And what else would I say with formatting?
Because they do drop in quite a few. Sometimes a blank page will appear and you don't even realize it's there. It's like,
Yes.
oh, when did that happen? You know?
Yes. And that's why I like vellum, because you can actually see on the page what it's going to look like when it's sort of formatted. But always double check, because you just don't know what's going to happen, and you might just miss something. You know, you could get distracted, and it's I had a word that actually for some reason it split in half and then put the second half of the word on the next line, and I hadn't realized, and I just, how could I have missed that?
Yeah.
Anyway, I
So
fixed it.
frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh well,
It
we're all
is-
human.
Yeah.
It is jarring though when you read it in somebody else's book though, isn't it? And they haven't checked, and the lines are sort of ski-whiff and all that sort of
Yes.
thing. So
Yes,
a
because-
really good tip is to actually download it to your Kindle or e-reader and
Yeah.
have a look at it that way, because that's the
Yes.
real deal then.
That's right. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so all the formatting information probably flows quite nicely into links, book links. So what I would say about book links is make sure that they're correct, because sometimes, you know, we might for some reason take a version of a book off and then reload it onto a site, or in my case, some of my books were with a book distributor, and I took some of those books out of that site and put them direct with the retailers. So all the links changed. So, or some of the links changed. So make sure that you've got your correct links in your front and back matter, or wherever you put it. Make sure that if you're using something like Book Funnel, that to have sort of like a universal click button for everything, that's working correctly. Because, you know, those links, whether they're book links or your website link or your Facebook page link, or a link even on your website that encourages people to join your newsletter, they all have to be spot on. So, you know, you check it, get a friend to check it, get another friend to check it, because those people won't try hard to join your newsletter group if you don't make it easy for them. So
That's so true. If I click a link and it doesn't work, I'm like, and then I leave, you know, like,
never mind.
yeah. It
You only
doesn't
get
even-
one shot, eh?
Yeah, yeah.
Unless
So
they're
that's
hardened
good.
fans, you'll only get one shot at them.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
So anytime you're making any kind of changes to anything, go back and make sure all the links, or think about what the links are that you've got going to wherever that is. Like if you're making changes like you're talking about. Is that right?
Yes. No, double check, triple check everything.
With your wide books, what links do you use? Do you use Drafted Digital Universal? You know,
I've got I use it doesn't really matter with Apple, because they're sort of like universal links anyway. Hang on, no, Apple does. You have to. What I do is I don't use Book Funnel. I probably should use something like that, but I use Booklinker, I think it's called, for Amazon, because I think it's Booklinker. They take the Amazon will take the reader to, if I put, say, the American Amazon link for a book in, if you're in New Zealand and you click on it, you can't get the book. So I try to use Booklinker, and that sort of like gives me a link for each country almost. So when the person clicks on it, it goes to their country of origin. For Kobo, you have to take out the country code within the website link and the fact of the language that it's in. Otherwise, with Kobo, again, it will take the person they won't be able to access the book. Google Play's fine. I just use their full link. So that all takes time to do that. And that's another thing I've been meaning to get around to, is use something like Book Funnel to make it easier.
Or Books to Read link, I think, is Books to Read is quite good, because I think they just automatically take you to the correct Amazon page, or
that's good.
or Kobo or Apple, or whatever. They're pretty good.
I get annoyed with those. And I know I'm being weird and most people will not be, and readers will probably be fine, but I used Amazon.com. And so if I'm clicking a link and they go, oh, here you are, amazon.com.au, and I'm like, I start trying to find the book and can't figure out why I can't get the book, and it's because it's not where my account is. It's on another store. But I think majority of
That's because you're
like
from
that.
New Zealand and you're an author and you have all you go through the US, but most the actual readers would probably buy through their own
area. Yeah.
And you're weird, let's be honest.
Yeah, I am weird. Thanks, Wendy, for pointing that out.
Worries. There for you, mate.
Have you ever been in KU, or you've always been wide?
No, when I very first started in 2014, I put my first 3 books in KU, and then I went wide after that. But I made a really big error when I started writing, and I didn't realize it till about 2 years later. When I started writing, I got my first, if anyone's familiar with how Amazon pay authors, you get a different amount of money from each marketplace. And in New Zealand, we were charged at that stage, and I don't know whether we still are because my charges disappeared, but we used to get charged $15 per Amazon marketplace as bank fees when the money came into my account. And so I got fed up with this. So I knew that if I unclicked all the marketplaces apart from one, it would just store the money in a vault somewhere. And then when I was ready to get the money out, I just had to re-click all the marketplaces, and it would just give me one amount of money coming in from that marketplace. And that would save me $15 a month on that particular marketplace. So if it was Germany and I'm not selling much in Germany, it made sense. So I did this, and then I forgot that I'd unclicked all the marketplaces until 2 years later. And I went, it might have been a year later. No, it must have been a year and a half, 2 years later. And I thought, that's funny. On my dashboard, it says that the books are only available in one marketplace, which was America. I thought, that's weird. So I clicked all the boxes again because I knew that they were selling all over the world, because I'd checked that they were in, France and New Zealand or wherever. And then the next month, I got a humongous 6-figure check from, a deposit in my account. Amazon, because I'd just been storing all this money for about a year and a half.
Oh my gosh.
And look at all those fees you saved.
Yeah, but think of all the interest I lost. I just about died. I thought, oh my Lord, how did I do that? So that's a trick to the wise. Don't unclick all those marketplaces. Make sure they're clicked.
Funny. And we don't have to do that anymore now, because you keep
don't we?
Oh no, I mean the fees you can kind of get down directly to. You don't get do you still get the $15 fee?
No.
Yeah.
And I couldn't work out why. I thought they were hiding it somewhere, so I gave up after a while.
You can get a little bit it can get overwhelming, can't it?
Yes, so little things like that as a newbie author, make sure all your accounts and your for New Zealand authors, make sure you've got your IRD or your tax number in the is it W8BEN form?
Yes.
So that you only pay 5% tax and not 30% tax. It's just little things like that if you don't know.
And how do you know, right? Nothing in life sets you up for this.
No.
It's not like you're learning, like I've said it before, it's not like you're doing an apprenticeship to be a doctor or a woodworker or a carpenter. I mean, who do you go to do an apprenticeship to be a writer? You're the only person.
Go to the spa girls.
Well, actually, I remember us filling out our tax forms for the very first time, and we were backwards and forwards with each other. We were like, so did you do that? And what did you do? What did you put here? And
is it individual or are we a company?
I
mean, what do we do?
And it's not until you actually have a conversation with you and you think, gosh, we really have learned a lot.
Yes.
I remember back in the day, and I don't think we have to do this anymore, having to ring the states and get an EIN number.
I did that.
And you're on the line with a scary American tax office person.
I had to go to the American embassy here. And,
it was the IT. I know. There was EIN and ITIN.
We were ITIN.
Yes, I went down to Wellington with a friend, and we had to go to an accountant. then we had to go to some government department. It was a
Oh,
whole
wow.
Oh, it's a big
Wow.
rigmarole.
Yeah. So now you don't have to do any of that, and you just put your
No,
New Zealand tax
no.
number in, and they charge you 5%, and then you
Yeah.
go to your New Zealand accountant or wherever
And
you
you
are
just
in the
use the
world.
text number from where you're from.
Yeah.
We can
Yeah.
okay, so I think we can probably move on to categories now.
Yes.
categories.
Talk to us
Yes.
about those.
Categories are important. Now, Amazon have changed quite a bit how they prioritize the categories that you set for your books. But when you're loading your books onto any retailer, you can choose which categories that you're going to put your book into. So do that wisely. Some sites allow you to do sort of 3 categories. Apple does that, or you can choose Amazon. I think you can choose 2. And then you put your keywords in, which kind of helps them to provide more automated, I should say, categories. So choose those categories wisely. I have a couple of sites that I'd recommend. One's called, I call it Booklink, BKLNK, and the person who, it's a free website, and you can put in the Amazon ASIN number, ASIN number of any book, and it will bring up all the categories that book has been allocated. So you can have a little snoopy on other authors that are in your genre that are selling really well, who write similar books, and just have a look and see what categories they've attributed to their books. And then there's a really cool feature where you can click a button and you can copy those links, so you don't have to type them out, because some of them are really long with the categories, and then you can just submit them to Amazon, and they will update your category list. As long as I think you haven't got more than 10 categories, then you have to kind of say which ones you want removed and which ones you want to add. So BKLNK, I call it Booklink. That's really great. Publisher Rocket will also help you with categories. So you have a look on the online, look at the tools that are available, and try and put your book into categories that are that make sense with the book you've written. You might want to try some little niche categories, and Publisher Rocket can tell you how many sort of how widely used some category niches are. You might want to try some niche ones, so that it might Amazon and other retailers might be able to recommend that book to some readers who you might not necessarily be seen by. If you choose, say, a romance category like contemporary romance / contemporary, and there's millions of books with that category heading. So just have a play around.
And I think lately Amazon have changed quite a bit in behind the scenes, haven't they? We talked about this before with regards to being able to be a bestseller in quite a few different categories. You can't now. They've reduced it down to being 2, I think it is.
3, I think.
We're at 3. So before, like if I had a release, quite often, I could hit 4 or 5 categories. Now I can't. So you've got to be extra smart about what you want to put your what book you want to put your categories in now. Yeah.
No, it's all interesting, and everything changes so much. So just keep trying, for the people watching this, keep in touch with you guys and what you're telling people on the Spa Girls, or join some Facebook groups like 20 books to 50K, just to keep on track of what's actually happening, because everything changes so fast that, and with the retailers, you don't know generally what they're doing until after they've done it. So just keep in touch with people to figure out what's going on and how you can maximize your exposure on the different sites.
It's funny because you can turn around one day and everything's just coming up roses, and the next day your sales have just gone boom, and you're like, hello, what's going on? And then you start going into those forums and reading stuff, and they're going, oh, well, this happened last night, and this, it makes sense now.
And there's really not a lot you can do about it. I think you just have to be authentic. You have to just keep checking and do the best you can, and
you've got to roll with it.
Just don't stress about it, because life's too short. So just keep writing, because you get the next book out and it will encourage more people to read your book. So just head down, tail up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so if you thought that you know your cover was on point, and I guess that's probably the only one that you could set in stone that you would feel comfortable about, because all the rest is open to conjecture, really, isn't it? If you're not doing well, then something there would, unless it's bad writing, right? Something there, which would you go to first as something to tweak?
I would first off look at I think the cover can actually change, and you know, there's a few things I'd look at first. My cover imagery first, to make sure that it's meeting any changes in that genre. You know, we've gone in the romance genre to say a male and a female. If you're writing, or say a romance novel, just having pictures of people on the cover, to images of like teacups or lakes,
Flowers.
or flowers. So
Trucks, it's just incredible. They're changing all the time.
yeah. So that's a really good thing to refresh everything. Look at your blurb, look at your first page, your opening couple of sentences. Just look at all of that. Because nothing is sort of set in stone. You can change everything. I've split series. So I looked at one series, which I knew the books in the second, it was about 8 books long. And I loved every book, and they were selling reasonably well. But I wanted to have a new free book. So I split the series in half, and it split really well. And so I changed the covers in the second half of that original series to a new look, and they sold really well. And so it's things like that you can change, that inspire people. Think, oh, I've got they may have read the first 2 or 3 books in that series but never continued on after that. So by splitting the series and promoting the first one, they read the next sort of 3 books and thought they'd read a new series.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have perma-free on all your series? Is that a strategy that you use?
Not all of them, but I usually have about 4 books free at any one stage. So that works really well to encourage people to read the book or read a book by me and then continue on, because my characters follow through. They'll be popping up in sort of maybe 10 to 15 books. So, people like that continuity. They like to see what's happened in the characters' lives. So that's why I don't mind having free books, because people can jump in the series at any in a new series at any stage. And if they really like that series, they can go and read the next one, or they can go back a series and find out when that person actually arrived in the world that I've created.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are they all based in the same town, or do you kind of have them spread out, the different series?
The first 4 series are set in Bozeman in Montana, and then the next sort of 4 series are set in an imaginary town called Sapphire Bay, which is on the shore of Flathead Lake. Okay. So I have all the other real towns around it, like Polson and Big Fork and etc. But Sapphire Bay is an imaginary town. So I really like it. I try and choose series that when I think about a series and some characters that I want to be in it, I try to think of a theme. So even though the books are set in the same town, they have a different feel or a different theme. So I've got 5 books that are set around Christmas, which was really tricky because try to get 5 timelines. I had to make it into quite a early Christmas, from about sort of the first book I think started in about April, May, and the last one finished in about, they're all planning for Christmas. So it's called Santa's Secret Helpers. And so it's about a group of friends who start up a Santa's Secret Helpers club almost. And no one knows who Santa's secret helpers are, and they do really nice things in their community. So they had to start planning for that, thank goodness, in about sort of April, May.
Brilliant.
And then as the season rolled through, they had Christmas wishes that actually happen all year round, which was really good for from my perspective.
It's
And then
such
the
a great
last
idea.
book, I think, is about January, February. And so, you know, and all the 4 characters are in all of the books. And it's just
Nice.
one particular character is the main for each one. So, they were fun writing, but that was the theme. They're all set in Sapphire Bay. They had characters from the preceding series, as well as I was setting up characters for the next series in these 5 books. So it was great.
That's awesome. So what
That's
other
very cool.
themes do you have? Like when you say theme, can you give me more examples? I'm just curious now.
So I've got the Lakeside Inn. So that's about 4 sisters who inherit their grandma's beautiful old house overlooking Flathead Lake, and they turn it in the condition. I mean, it's the thing with romance is there are lots of storylines that are similar, but it's how you say it that changes it. So
It's your voice, doesn't it?
Yes,
Yes.
so you'll find a lot of books along this particular theme of the Lakeside Inn. So 4 sisters inherit equally a share in their grandmother's beautiful old home. A condition of the inheritance is that they have to stay in the inn for a year, and after all of them. And they've had issues, so that's not as easy as it might sound. And they all have different life experiences and careers that they have to give up or try and make work from Sapphire Bay. So those books are fabulous. And in those books, the girls in the first book called The Lakeside Inn find an old dresser of their grandmother's. And in there is a letter written by Abraham Lincoln to his son. And it's the draft, the last draft of the Gettysburg Address. So throughout all of the books, there's this mystery surrounding the letter, you know, how it got there, what their grandparents were like, what happens to it. The Smithsonian Institute end up doing a display around this letter. It's all, that's another, I love that series.
Which is cool, which is so cool.
Because I try, and with my books, they're not just straight romance. I have a lot of mystery and adventure, and I'll try and put some historic facts into it that creates a little bit of intrigue in the book. So the Gettysburg Address sort of letter was really fun to write because I had to do a lot of research. I've got Emerald Lake Billionaires. That's one of my early ones. And that's all set around a lake called Emerald Lake. And it's about 4 men who are billionaires who have bought big plots of land around the lake, and they're building houses. So there's some really interesting people they meet, and you know, it's a romance, so they were fun to write. What other themes have I got? Montana Brides, that's kind of that was my first series, and that's quite different to my other ones. I was learning how to put a series together with those books. But they have those books are really around family and friendship and community. So that's fun. And my Protectors series have men and women who are in a protector kind of relationship with the person they fall in love with. So one of my characters, Sam, she's a computer genius, and she looks after the hero. She's sent as a bodyguard to look after him. She works in a security company, and she has to work on something he's developed while she's in Montana, and also make sure the baddies don't get him, because everyone's after what he's this high-tech thing that he's. So they're really good.
That's cool. What I really love is how much you love your books.
Yes,
it comes across, and you still love the storylines. I think that's awesome. So that's really cool.
It makes it it comes through in the writing, which is awesome.
And I think that's a big part of what we're all doing. You got to love your books.
Absolutely.
So
we should move on to the advertising.
We've got to get any advertising in here. So
people love the advertising.
So what do you spend your advertising budget on? Like what kind of advertising do you do, and how's it set up?
I'd spend my advertising budget on newsletters like eBook Betty and Robin Reads and Freebooksy, BookBub, their featured deals. I don't, and lots of ebook hounds, all kinds of My Book Cave, all kinds of sites that send newsletters out to readers each day. That's where I spend my money. I don't do any Facebook ads. Occasionally I might do a Facebook boosted post if I've got a new book coming out. I've got a few Amazon ads, not too many. I maybe spend $30 a month on Amazon ads. So yeah, it's basically just the ebook the newsletter type things.
So what other marketing are you doing then? Do you have a newsletter?
I have a newsletter I send a newsletter out about a week before a new book comes out, and then about a week after a new book comes out. And if I've got any special promotions that I'm part of, I'll send something out then, but it's not a regular sort of weekly newsletter. So that works really well.
Do you have many people on it?
About 10,000.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I haven't actively grown that at all. It just sort of hovers around that mark. So I used Book Sweeps. They're really great for their, they have call it programs or things you can join, your promotions you can join to encourage with other authors. They sort of they organize everything. So the authors click on a link, they join up with the promotion, and the promotion might be for sweet romances to increase your BookBub following. So so you join that, you pay a little bit of money, they do a fantastic job, and people have to follow you on BookBub to get your free book or whatever, or to go in the draw to get a bunch of free books or whatever. But I have about 55,000 BookBub followers, so that probably about 1,000 of those are American. So that's great. But
that's
yeah,
awesome. And are you regularly getting BookBub ads? Oh, not ads, featured deals?
Featured deals, yeah. Yeah, usually I do. I wait the month after a featured deal comes out and reapply, and they're really nice about accepting a submission. Sometimes they still get no if they're full up, but they're really good, and I appreciate that, because it's kind of like a win-win situation for both. I mean, you're in a business when you're an author, so for BookBub or for anyone that selects your book, whether it's a Robin reads series promotion or something like that, if there's space, they'll try and fit you in. If they know they'll sell, they'll get downloads from your books, because when they get downloads, they'll get on sales of other books in that series. So their algorithms, I mean, they have to make money as well. So yeah, I'm really thankful for their support. It's really good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But
do you do like author swaps or anything like that, cross promotion?
Sometimes I do. Quite often, if I've got a newsletter coming out, I'll get on my fingers, let my fingers do the typing and flick out to friends, have you got a free book or a book that's on sale, and I'll pop it in my newsletter. Or someone will ask me and I'll go, that's fine. Or as long as, if you're going to do swaps, make sure that the book that you're putting in your newsletter, or that you're giving that person to put in their newsletter, is consistent with the type of book that person writes. So you don't want super sexy books. And I wouldn't put, as much as I would love to, I wouldn't put a super sexy book in my newsletter, because my readers don't read a lot of super sexy books. So that kind of mid-range is awesome, but I wouldn't put an erotica book in my newsletter. So just be really careful about, who you're supporting, and you can support people in different ways. It doesn't have to be through your newsletter. There can be other ways of doing it. But I don't spend a lot on advertising. So, and what I would say about advertising is what you guys have said in the past: don't spend a fortune on advertising if you haven't got at least 3 books that people can buy, because, if you're doing a first in a series free, you need to be able to recoup the cost of that ad from the sales of the next books in the series.
Yeah, very true. I had a question there. box sets. That's what I wrote down. Do you do box sets? Do you do ones with other authors, or do your own ones? How does
I do my own. I just basically split series up and put them into box sets. I find it I would love to write as part of groups. I find it really hard to commit myself to that because there's so much happening in my life that even getting my books out on time with my publishing deadlines can sometimes be really hard. And I don't want to let people down by saying, yes, I'll be able to have a short story for you by this date. I really like to, if I'm going to say yes, I like to be able to say yes 100% and really follow through with that. And the last thing anyone wants is for an author to say, look, I'm sorry, but I haven't got it done, you know, when you've got other people that are relying on you. So I hate saying no, but sometimes I just have to. And it's
And
also,
how many books do you put out a year?
Oh, well, I try and do 4. This last couple of years have been really hard. I've still put out 4 books a year, but they've been down to the wire.
Yeah.
But I don't know, just everything that's happening in the world, it sort of like gets not on top of me, but I need to focus on my writing and try and it sounds really horrible, but try and block out what's going on around me, because you're trying to write about happy ever afters and people falling in love, and all you can think about is some of the atrocious things that are happening and thinking, and you know,
it doesn't
for
seem
instance,
right.
Well, one of the I got an email about I don't know, 3 days before Russia invaded Ukraine from a Ukrainian woman who was really enjoying my books, and she said how great they are. And then Mr. Putin invaded Ukraine, and I've been trying to get hold of it ever since, and I can't. So, you know, you worry about people, and it's those types of things that you just have to in my mind, I have to say that what I'm doing is taking people out of where they are and giving them some escapism. And I don't have a huge audience in Europe, but I have a huge audience in America, and lots of things are happening there that are unsettling for people. So I just have to look at it as a positive escapism.
That's awesome.
Otherwise, you'd never write anything, would you?
No,
Yeah, you can't take it all on board, because that's interesting. Because I was curious, the question I had before was, how are you getting that connection with readers? So do you have a Facebook group or anything like that, or is it mainly through your newsletter? So it's through your newsletter and people emailing you, would you say?
I have a Facebook page. It's really weird how people have kind of clicked into my books, because I don't have ARC teams, I don't have Facebook teams, I don't have Facebook groups, I don't have anything. And so I think people just enjoy my stories. I don't know, I really don't know how I would do it. I couldn't do it if I had lots of interactive forums for people to chat with me and learn about me, the person. I don't know how I could do that with everything else that I'm doing. I think I'd have to get a virtual assistant or something like that to help with, I mean, just booking ads. I can spend a day and a half booking ads in advance, and then the follow-up of paying for the ads. And I mean, it all sounds small, but when you're doing maybe 30 or 40 ads sort of at a time, it all takes time. So, and then you're updating front and back matter, and planning out next series, and coordinating with my cover designer for the next series of books, and thinking ahead a year or 2 in advance. It's just mind-boggling, really.
It is.
How
do you do it so well?
I don't know. I think when I look at your page and your covers and everything is so beautifully in sync and so beautifully sort of branded all together. I can kind of see why someone starts one book and then just is reading everything. And so I'm sure that's a big part of what's happening there. They don't need to know about you and how many meals you had today, and about your cute dog. They just want to read your books, you know.
Oh, I must say, before we go any further, I had earlier in the year, I was, you know, how you sort of, as a writer, you sort of get stages where life goes on a little bit of a plateau, and you're looking for something to give you a bit of energy and a bit of excitement as far as the writing, to re-enthuse you into your writing. And I joined the Book Talkers Patreon community, and Anne did a wonderful sort of tutorials on how to use Book Talk.
And Kemp.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it was fabulous. I haven't done any since because I've been doing some other things that I shouldn't have been. But I loved doing the book talks, and I've watched you guys, and I thought, oh, you're really clever. And I didn't want to do the face thing, of me doing.
Yeah. You're talking about TikTok, just for people who want to know what TikTok
sorry,
is.
TikTok.
Yeah.
And so Anne showed us how to do the page flips, and I set up some nice little scenes of books, and it was just fabulous. It kind of like re-inspired the creative side of my brain.
It's just something different, isn't it?
Yeah, TikTok's great, and there's so many different authors doing different things on there. I think that that's another way of connecting with readers.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, we're coming up to the end of the interview now, so I just wanted to ask one final question, unless the other two have more questions. Was just if there's one piece of advice that you could give our listeners out there about the writing or the writing life, or something that you think that's important for them to know about, what would it be?
To hang in there, write your book and get it finished. And then just follow through with all those steps, all the things that are important to you when you're reading a book. Think about your reader when you're formatting it and when you're putting it on the retail sites. But have fun, because life's too short. You're investing in that book. You're going to be investing hundreds, if not thousands, of hours for some writers. And so you want to be proud of your end result. So take the time, but also balance that out with your family, because if you're writing part-time and you've got another paid job and you've got family, friends, whatever, you need to balance that out, because there's no point spending all your time writing and missing out on life. Yeah. So just find balance and enjoy it.
Yeah, very true.
Thank you for that.
Awesome. Awesome, and thank you so much for joining us here today in the spa. So if someone wants to go and check out your books and find more about you, where do they go?
They can look on my website on leannamorgan.com. That's LEEANNA Morgan.com, and everything's there. I've got my Facebook links, my BookBub links, and everything else, and newsletter links.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And who wants to talk about where we can be found? Over to you two.
Oh, me. Wendy. So I just want to say a big thank you to the Patreon people. We've had some amazing support from you all, and some great feedback in our Facebook group. But you can find us at spargirlspodcast.com anywhere, really. And if you're on YouTube, please subscribe, because we're close to where Shah's golden
please make Shah happy.
And so come along and have a chat with us.
Awesome. Thank you, Wendy. Awesome. And thank you all for listening to another episode of the Spa Girls podcast. We're so pleased to have you here. And for now, that's farewell.
Bye.